You some kind of cop?
No.
Military?
The gas station appeared like a mirage against the Montana highway. Single pump, peeling paint, a neon sign that flickered open in the late afternoon sun. Jake Mercer pulled the aging sedan into the lot, dust rising in clouds that caught the golden light. In the back seat, his daughters watched through tired eyes. "Is this it?" Emma asked. She was 12, old enough to recognize disappointment when she saw it. "Just a quick stop," Jake said, killing the engine. "Bathrooms, snacks, then 2 more hours to Grandma's." 2 more hours, Lily repeated, her 6-year-old voice flat with the exhaustion of a day spent watching cornfields blur past. "My legs hurt." "I know, sweetheart. Stretch them out. We'll walk around a bit." Jake climbed out, his body moving with the careful precision of someone who'd spent years training it to respond correctly under pressure. 42 years old, still lean, still strong, but feeling every mile of the 12-hour drive from Seattle in his lower back. He stretched, hands pressed to his spine, and surveyed the station. It was the kind of place that survived on geography rather than service, the only option for 50 miles in any direction. A single clerk visible through grimy windows, smoking behind the counter. A pickup truck with Wyoming plates parked by the air pump, its owner nowhere in sight. Otherwise empty. Emma emerged from the car, phone already in hand, searching for signal that wouldn't come. Lily tumbled out after her, grass stained from the park they'd stopped at 4 hours ago, hair escaping from the braids Jake had managed that morning. "Bathroom," Lily announced. "Around the side." "Emma, go with her." "Dad, I'm 12. "Emma, go with her." Something in his tone, the one that didn't argue, made Emma pocket her phone and take Lily's hand. They disappeared around the corner of the building. Jake leaned against the sedan, listening. Old habit. Always aware of where they were, always tracking sounds, always ready. The rumble reached him before he saw them. Low and mechanical, growing louder. He turned toward the highway as they appeared, motorcycles, 7 of them, riding in loose formation. Chrome and leather, engines deliberately loud, the kind of bikes meant to announce their presence. They pulled into the station in a thunder of noise, circling once before parking in a diagonal line that blocked the exit. The riders dismounted with theatrical slowness, removing helmets to reveal faces that ranged from mid-20s to maybe 50. Leather vests over denim, patches Jake recognized from his time in violent places, symbols that meant territory, meant affiliation, meant trouble. The leader was obvious. Tallest, oldest, with a gray-streaked beard and eyes that swept the lot like he owned it. His gaze landed on Jake's sedan, battered, rust-spotted, Washington plates, and something shifted in his expression. Calculation. Recognition of an opportunity. Jake straightened slightly, not quite standing at attention, but no longer casually leaning. His hands hung loose at his sides. Empty. Relaxed. The way they taught him to stand when violence might be coming. "Nice day for a drive," the leader said, walking closer. His voice carried the false friendliness of someone used to being feared. "It is," Jake replied evenly. "Long way from Washington." The man stopped 10 feet away. Close enough to talk, far enough to seem non-threatening. His crew spread out behind him, casual but deliberate, cutting off angles. "Where you headed?" "Family visit." "Family." The man smiled. "That's nice. Kids with you." Every nerve in Jake's body went alert. Not a question. A statement. The man had already looked in the car, seen the booster seat, the scattered toys, the evidence of children. "Just passing through," Jake said. Sure. We all are." The leader glanced at his crew, got silent confirmation of something. "Thing is, this is kind of our stop. We got an arrangement with the owner. Use the facilities, stretch our legs, nobody bothers us." "I'll be quick." "I'm sure you will." The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "But there's a fee. For outside vehicles using our station. Maintenance costs, you understand." Behind the building, Jake heard Lily's voice, high and clear, asking Emma a question he couldn't make out. His daughters, 30 feet away. Around a corner. Vulnerable. How much? He asked. Let's call it 200. Cash. The leader's tone suggested the amount was negotiable upward, not down. Jake's mind ran calculations automatically. Threat assessment. 7 men, at least 3 visibly armed. He could see the bulges under jackets. Unknown additional weapons. Probable drug use based on dilated pupils and twitchy movements from 2 of the younger ones. Combat training unlikely, but street experience probable. Organized enough to run a protection racket. Disorganized enough to do it at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. His own resources, $47 in his wallet. A decade of hand-to-hand combat training. Reflexes that still responded faster than his conscious mind could process. And 2 little girls who needed their father to get them safely to their grandmother's house. I don't have 200, Jake said. That's unfortunate. The leader shook his head with mock sympathy. Because the alternative is we help ourselves. Nice car like that probably has something valuable. Or maybe we wait for those kids to come back. See if they're carrying phones, tablets, something worth our time. The temperature seemed to drop despite the warm afternoon sun. Jake felt his breathing slow, deepen, the way it always did before. Before action. Before violence. Before the part of himself he'd spent 3 years trying to bury came back to the surface. You don't want to do that, he said quietly. The leader laughed. I don't. Why's that, friend? You going to stop me? Yes. The word hung in the air. Simple. Certain. No threat, no posturing. Just a statement of fact delivered in a tone that made 2 of the crew members shift uncomfortably. The leader's smile faded. He studied Jake more carefully now, seeing past the worn jeans and faded t-shirt, noticing the way he stood, the scars on his knuckles, the absolute stillness that only came from being very, very dangerous. You some kind of cop? The leader asked. No. Military. Jake didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence said enough. The leader took a step back, then stopped, pride warring with instinct. His crew was watching. Backing down would cost him, but pushing forward might cost more. Look, he said, trying to salvage it. We're just having conversation. No need for anyone to get excited. You got kids with you. We get that. Tell you what, $50. We call it even. Everybody goes home happy. Around the corner, Lily called out, Daddy, can we get ice cream? Jake's jaw tightened. Every second they stood here was a second his daughters were exposed. A second anything could happen. Emma, he called back, not taking his eyes off the leader. Bring your sister to the car. Now. His tone, command voice, the one that had sent men into burning buildings and night raids, carried an authority that even 12-year-old Emma recognized. Footsteps approached quickly. The girls appeared, Lily skipping ahead, Emma more cautious, immediately sensing the tension. She stopped when she saw the motorcycles, the men arranged in a loose semicircle around their father. Get in the car, Jake said softly. Lock the doors. But Dad. Now. Emma grabbed Lily's hand, pulled her toward the sedan. Lily started to protest, then saw something in the scene that made her quiet. They climbed in. The locks clicked. Jake reached for his wallet, pulled out 2 20s and a 10. $50. Everything except 7 singles he needed for tolls. He held it out. The leader looked at the money, then at Jake's face, then at the car where 2 little girls pressed against the window, watching with wide eyes. Keep it, the leader said finally. Consider it a courtesy. This time. He gestured to his crew. They mounted their bikes without a word. Engines roared to life. One by one they pulled out, circling the lot once before accelerating onto the highway in a thunder of exhaust. Jake stood motionless until the sound faded completely. Then he walked to the car, opened the driver's door, slid inside. His hands were steady on the wheel. His breathing was normal. Everything looked calm. But Emma, watching him in the rearview mirror, saw something that made her voice small when she asked, Are we safe, Dad? Jake started the engine. Always, he said. I'll always keep you safe. He pulled onto the highway, heading west, watching the mirrors until the gas station disappeared behind him. They drove in silence for 20 minutes before Lily spoke. Those were bad men. Not a question. A statement delivered with the certainty of a child who'd learned to read danger in her father's posture, his tone, the way his shoulders tensed. They were just people, Jake said, keeping his voice light. Having a bad day. They wanted to hurt us. Emma's reflection in the rearview mirror showed eyes too old for 12. I could tell. Jake's hands tightened on the wheel. 3 years. 3 years since he'd left the teams, since he'd promised himself and his daughters that the violence was behind them. 3 years of therapy and civilian jobs, and pretending he was just another single dad, trying to make it work. And in 20 seconds at a gas station, it had all come rushing back. The calculations, the threat assessment, the cold certainty of what he could do if he had to. They didn't hurt us, he said. We're fine. Because you scared them. Lily's voice carried a mixture of pride and confusion. How did you do that? You didn't even move. I didn't scare anyone, sweetheart. I just talked to them. You did that voice, Lily insisted. The one you use when Emma takes my toys. But bigger. Emma met his eyes in the mirror. Dad, what are you telling us? The question hit harder than it should have. Emma had been 9 when Sarah died. Old enough to remember her mother. Old enough to notice how different Jake had been before. Before the deployment that changed everything. Before the injury that sent him home. Before the single dad who coached soccer and made terrible pancakes replaced a man in uniform who disappeared for months at a time. I'm telling you we're safe, Jake said. That's all that matters. But those men. Emma. The command voice slipped out before he could stop it. Not angry, but absolute. The voice that ended discussions. Emma went quiet. In the back seat, Lily started humming softly. Her way of managing stress. Jake exhaled slowly, forcing his shoulders to drop, his grip to loosen. I'm sorry, he said after a moment. I didn't mean to snap. It's been a long drive. It's okay, Emma said, but her tone suggested it wasn't. The highway stretched ahead, empty and straight. Montana sky vast overhead. Mountains purple in the distance. Jake checked the mirrors compulsively, watching for motorcycles that didn't appear. The rational part of his brain knew they were gone, knew the confrontation was over. The other part, the one that had kept him alive in places where hesitation meant death, kept scanning for threats. His phone rang. Jake glanced at the screen. Mom. He let it go to voicemail, then immediately felt guilty. She'd been calling twice a day since they left Seattle, worried about the drive, about the girls, about whether he was eating properly. As if he was the child. The phone rang again. This time he answered, putting it on speaker. Hi, Mom. Jacob. Finally. I was starting to worry. We're fine. 2 hours out, maybe less. The girls. Right here. Say hi to Grandma. Hi, Grandma. Lily's voice immediately brightened. We stopped at a gas station, and there were motorcycles. Jake winced. His mother's silence carried weight even through the phone. Motorcycles, she repeated carefully. Just passing through the same place we were, Jake said. Nothing exciting. Lily said there were bad men. Lily also thinks the neighbor's cat is plotting against her. Everything's fine, Mom. We'll be there by dinner. Another pause. His mother had been a military wife for 30 years before his father retired. She knew what fine meant when a soldier said it. Knew it usually meant the opposite. Jacob. The truth. Emma and Lily both leaned forward, listening. Jake considered lying, decided against it. His mother would extract the truth eventually anyway. Some bikers tried to shake me down for money. I paid them. They left. We're fine. They threatened you. With the girls in the car. They made implications. I handled it. How much did they take? $50. And they just left. After threatening you and the girls, they took $50 and drove away. Her skepticism was sharp enough to cut. Jacob Mercer, what did you do? Nothing. I talked to them. They decided it wasn't worth their time. Uh-huh. The sound of her moving, probably to the kitchen where she did her thinking. And they came to this decision because of your sparkling conversational skills. Despite everything, Jake smiled. Something like that. Your father wants to talk to you. Mom, it's not. But she'd already handed off the phone. His father's voice came through, gruff and direct. How many? 7. Arm. At least 3 visible sidearms. Probably more. And you paid them off. Not a question. His father knew better. Knew his son. I had the girls with me, Dad. Wasn't going to risk it. Smart. But they would have pushed. Men like that always push. They tried. I convinced them otherwise. A long exhale. Without violence. Without violence. Good man. His father's approval was quiet but real. Your mother doesn't need to know the details. She's already figuring them out. Then we'll both sleep on the couch tonight. A pause. The girl's okay? Jake glanced at the rearview mirror. Emma was watching him with those 2 knowing eyes. Lily had gone back to humming. They're processing. Emma's asking questions. She's her mother's daughter. Smart enough to know when something doesn't add up. The mention of Sarah created a moment of silence. 3 years since the cancer took her. 3 years of Jake trying to be both parents, trying to fill a gap that couldn't be filled. We'll be there soon, Jake said. Couple hours. Drive safe. And son, whatever happened back there, let it stay there. You're not that person anymore. I know. Do you? Jake didn't answer. His father waited, then sighed. See you soon. Your mother's making pot roast. The call ended. Jake drove, the silence in the car different now. Heavier. Grandpa knows, Emma said quietly. Knows what? Whatever you're not saying. Him and Grandma. They know you're different. I'm not different. I'm your dad. You're different than other dads. Emma's voice wasn't accusing, just observational. You notice things. You move weird. You get this look sometimes, like you're seeing something nobody else can see. Emma, I'm not stupid, Dad. I know you were in the military. I know you did something. Mom used to get quiet when people asked about it. And after she died, you stopped talking about it completely. Jake pulled onto the shoulder, put the car in park, turned to face his daughters. Emma met his gaze steadily. Lily looked between them, confused but attentive. Yes, Jake said. I was in the military. I did things I can't talk about. Things I'm not proud of. But that was before. Before you, before this, before I became the person I am now. But it's still in you, Emma said. Isn't it? Whatever made those men leave. Whatever makes you check every room before you let us enter. Whatever makes you wake up at night and walk the house. She saw too much. Both his daughters did in their own ways. Lily with her intuitive reading of his moods. Emma with her sharp analysis of behavior. It's part of me, Jake admitted. But it doesn't define me. Being your father, that defines me. Keeping you safe, making sure you're happy. Giving you a life your mom would be proud of. That's who I am. The men at the gas station, Lily said. You could have hurt them. Not a question. Jake looked at his 6-year-old daughter, saw her watching him with Sarah's eyes, saw the trust there that he couldn't bear to break. Yes, he said, I could have. But I didn't. Because hurting people is a last resort, not a first option. Because you were there, and I needed to show you that most problems can be solved without violence. But if we weren't there, Emma pressed. If it was just you. If it was just me, I still would have walked away. Because I'm not that person anymore. You promise. Jake reached back, took Emma's hand. I promise. The person I was, the soldier, the one who did things in dark places, he's retired. He only comes out if he absolutely has to. To protect you. That's the only reason. Emma nodded slowly. Lily reached over, put her small hand on top of theirs. Okay, Emma said. But Dad, if you ever need to be that person again, to keep us safe, it's okay. We won't think you're scary. We'll know you're protecting us. The words cracked something in Jake's chest. He squeezed their hands, then released them, turned back to the wheel, pulled onto the highway. They drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence, the mountains growing closer, the sun dropping toward the horizon. Jake's phone buzzed with a text from his mother, pot roast in 90 minutes. Don't be late. He smiled, typed back, we'll be there. Another buzz. Different number. Unknown. Jake opened it. Nice car. Nice kids. See you around, friend. Below the text, a photo. Taken from behind. Their sedan on the highway. Washington plates clearly visible. Time stamp from 15 minutes ago. Jake's blood went cold. He checked the mirrors again, scanning the empty highway, the long stretches of nothing, the perfect isolation. They weren't being followed. Not right now. But they had been. Recently enough for someone to take that photo and send it. Dad, Emma's voice carried concern. What's wrong? Jake deleted the text, forced his expression neutral. Nothing, sweetheart. Just checking messages. But his hands tightened on the wheel, and his mind was already calculating. The gas station was 200 miles behind them. His mother's house was 2 hours ahead. 2 hours of open highway, small towns, limited options. They'd let him walk away, but they hadn't let him go. The question was why, and the answer to that question would determine everything that came next. Jake kept driving, but everything had changed. His awareness sharpened, cataloging details he'd been too relaxed to notice before. The cars that passed them, a blue pickup, sedan with Colorado plates, minivan with a family inside. The exit signs marking small towns he'd never heard of. The gas gauge showing half a tank. Enough to reach his mother's house, but not enough for evasive maneuvers, if it came to that. He pulled his thoughts back. Evasive maneuvers. The fact that his mind had gone there showed how quickly the old training reasserted itself. 3 years of civilian life, and one text message had flipped a switch he'd promised himself would stay off. Dad, you're doing it again, Emma said. Doing what? That thing. Where you get really quiet, and your eyes keep moving. Jake forced himself to relax his grip on the wheel. Just tired. Long drive. In the mirror, Emma's expression said she didn't believe him. But she didn't push. Small mercy. The highway curved through foothills, forest pressing close on both sides. Jake's phone buzzed again. He ignored it. Then again. On the third buzz, Emma reached forward from the back seat. Want me to check it? Might be Grandma. Leave it. Dad. Emma. Leave it. The silence that followed was tense. Jake exhaled, tried to soften his tone. Please. I'll check it when we stop. We're not stopping, Lily observed. You said 2 hours. We've been driving for one. 1 more hour, no stops. That's right. But I have to pee. Of course she did. 6 years old, small bladder. They'd been in the car for an hour since the gas station. Jake glanced at the GPS. Next town was Whitehall, population 1,200, 12 miles ahead. Public restrooms, gas stations, witnesses. Or a perfect place for an ambush. He shook his head, dismissing the thought. This wasn't Fallujah or Kandahar. This was Montana. Highway 90. Civilian territory where people didn't lay ambushes for single fathers and their kids. But the text message sat in his phone like a weight. See you around, friend. 10 minutes, Jake said. We'll stop in Whitehall. Quick bathroom break, then straight through to Grandma's. Promise? Lily asked. Promise. They drove in silence. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the highway. Jake's training kept inserting observations he didn't want. The trees could hide motorcycles. The overpasses could provide vantage points. The curve ahead obscured visibility for exactly 200 meters. Stop it, he told himself. You're not on mission. You're taking your daughters to see their grandmother. But his hand stayed ready on the wheel, and his eyes kept checking mirrors. Whitehall appeared as a cluster of buildings along the highway. A few stores, a diner, 2 gas stations, the usual infrastructure of small-town America. Jake pulled into the larger station, choosing the pump closest to the building's entrance. More visibility, harder to approach unseen. Okay, he said, turning to the girls. Bathrooms, then straight back to the car. Emma, you're in charge. I'm always in charge, Emma muttered, but she took Lily's hand. 5 minutes. I'll be watching. They climbed out, Lily skipping toward the building, Emma more measured. Jake watched them disappear inside, then scanned the lot. 3 other vehicles, a work truck, a sedan with a young couple inside, an RV with out-of-state plates. No motorcycles. No leather vests. No obvious threats. He checked his phone. For messages, all from the same unknown number. Nice car. Nice kids. See you around, friend. 2 girls. Pretty young. Long way from home. Whitehall's a small town. Real small. Pump 4. We see you. Jake's head snapped up. Scanned the lot again, the street beyond, the buildings across the highway. Nothing. Nobody. But the message was clear. They were here. Watching. Close enough to know which pump he'd chosen. His hand went to his pocket. To the phone where he could call 911. Local police. Get help. But help for what? A threatening text message? No crime committed. No immediate danger. Just words on a screen and his own hypervigilance. The police would take a report. Maybe patrol the area. Maybe escort them out of town. And maybe that would be enough to make the bikers back off. Decide the hassle wasn't worth it. Or maybe it would escalate things. Make them angry. Make them follow through on implications that were currently just threats. Jake's tactical mind ran scenarios. Option 1. Call police. Request escort. Hope the visible law enforcement deterred further contact. Risk, escalation, delay. Putting his daughters in the middle of official attention they didn't need. Option 2. Leave immediately. Drive straight to his mother's house. Lock doors. Hope they didn't follow. Risk, leading threats directly to his family. Option 3. Confront this now. End it before it could grow. Risk everything. The bathroom door opened. Emma and Lily emerged, Lily chattering about the soap dispenser shaped like a bear. They walked toward the car, unaware of anything wrong. Just 2 kids on a road trip to see their grandmother. Jake made his decision. Girls, get in the car. Lock the doors. Emma's expression shifted immediately. Dad, do it. Now. His tone left no room for argument. They climbed in, locks clicking. Through the window, Emma mouthed, "What's wrong?" Jake held up one finger. 1 minute. Then he walked toward the station entrance, movements deliberate, scanning constantly. Inside, the clerk was a teenager, barely old enough to work, scrolling through his phone with practiced disinterest. Jake approached the counter. "Hey, you see any motorcycles come through here? Last 20 minutes. The kid looked up, startled. "Oh yeah, 7 or 8 of them. Pulled in, didn't buy anything, just sat in the lot for a bit. Then they left." "Which direction?" "West. Same way you're headed, I guess." The kid's eyes narrowed slightly. "You know them?" "No. Just cautious." Jake pulled out a 20. "For the gas." "You didn't pump any gas." "Keep it anyway. And do me a favor. If they come back, if anyone asks about a man with 2 girls in a silver sedan, you didn't see us." The kid pocketed the 20, understanding dawning. "Yeah. Okay. I didn't see you." Jake returned to the car, climbed in, started the engine. Emma leaned forward immediately. "What's happening?" "Change of plans. We're not going to Grandma's house." "What? Why?" "Because I don't want to lead trouble to her door." Jake pulled out of the lot, turning east instead of west. Back the way they'd come. "We're going to Great Falls. Bigger city, more people, safer." "But Grandma's expecting us." "I'll call her. Explain we're delayed." Jake's mind was already working through the new plan. Great Falls was 2 hours east, population 60,000, large enough for anonymity, for options, for help if needed. His old team had a guy there, Marcus Chun, retired 3 years before Jake, running a security consulting business. If anyone could help, it would be Marcus. "Dad, you're scaring me," Lily said quietly. Jake met her eyes in the mirror, forced his expression to soften. "I know, baby. But I promise, everything's going to be okay. We're just taking a detour. Like an adventure." "What kind of adventure?" "The kind where we get to stay in a hotel with a pool and order pizza for dinner." Lily's eyes widened. "Really? Really? How's that sound?" "Good." The fear in her voice shifted to excitement. Children's emotions, mercurial and quick. "Can we get ice cream too?" "We'll see." Emma wasn't convinced. "This is about those men, isn't it?" From the gas station. Jake didn't answer immediately. Honesty versus protection. The eternal parental dilemma. He settled for somewhere in between. I got some messages that made me uncomfortable. I'm being extra cautious. That's all. What kind of messages? The kind that make me want to change our route. But Emma, listen to me. Nothing is going to happen to you. Or to Lily. I won't let it. How can you promise that? Because I've kept people safe in much more dangerous situations than this. Because I know what I'm doing. Because I'm your father, and keeping you safe is the only thing that matters. Emma studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, I trust you. The words hit harder than they should have. Trust. His daughters trusted him completely, absolutely, with their safety and their lives. And he would burn the world down before he let that trust be misplaced. They drove east as the sun sank lower, painting the Montana sky in shades of orange and purple. Jake called his mother, kept his voice light, explained they decided to stop in Great Falls for the night, would arrive tomorrow instead. She didn't buy it. He could hear the concern in her questions, but she didn't press. Not with the girls listening. An hour into the drive, Jake's phone rang. Unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. And again. On the fourth call, he answered, putting it on speaker before he could think better of it. Yeah, going the wrong way, friend. The leader's voice, unmistakable. Great Falls is east. Grandma's house is west. Jake's blood went cold. They knew about his mother. Had they followed him all the way from Seattle? Monitored his calls? Or was it simpler? Had they just looked up his plates, found his address, done basic research? What do you want? Jake kept his voice level. Just checking in. Making sure you're not getting any ideas. About police, about running, about being a hero. I paid you. We're square. Are we? See, here's the thing. After you left, I got to thinking. Man like you, standing up to 7 of us, not even scared. That's interesting. Made me curious. So I made some calls. Ran your plates. Found out who you are. Jake's grip tightened on the wheel. And Jacob Mercer, Navy SEAL, retired 3 years ago. That's a different conversation than some random dad on a road trip. That's someone who might cause problems. Someone who might remember faces, file reports, make things complicated. I'm not interested in causing problems. I just want to get my daughters where we're going. I believe you. But my associates, they're nervous. They think maybe we should tie up loose ends. Make sure you don't become a problem later. In the back seat, Emma's breathing had gone shallow. Lily was quiet, sensing the danger even if she didn't understand it. I'm going to say this once, Jake said, his voice dropping into registers he hadn't used in 3 years. You leave us alone. You leave my daughters alone. You leave my mother alone. You forget you ever saw us. And I'll forget I ever saw you. Or what? Or I stop being retired. The silence that followed stretched. Then the leader laughed, but it sounded forced. Big words. But you got 2 little girls in that car. You really want to start something you can't finish. I'm not starting anything. I'm ending it. Right now. This conversation is over. You don't call again. You don't follow us. You disappear. And everyone goes home safe. And if we don't? Jake's voice went flat, emotionless, the tone he'd used when briefing missions that involved acceptable casualties. Then I come back without my daughters. And I find you. And we have a very different conversation. Another pause. Then, you threatening me? No. I'm making a promise. Your choice which way this goes. The line went dead. Jake set the phone down, hand steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. In the rearview mirror, Emma was pale, eyes wide. Lily looked confused, scared. That was the bad men, Lily said. Yes, they're following us. They were. They won't anymore. How do you know? Jake met Emma's eyes in the mirror. She saw something there that made her look away. Because your father just reminded them why it's a bad idea to threaten a SEAL's family. Emma said quietly. Language. Jake said automatically. SEAL isn't a bad word, Dad. No. But the context. He stopped. Sighed. You're right. I was a SEAL. And yes, I just used that to scare them off. Will it work? Emma asked. I hope so. And if it doesn't? Jake didn't answer. Just drove, watching the mirrors, as Great Falls grew closer and the sky turned dark. Great Falls appeared as a constellation of lights against the darkness. Jake pulled into a chain hotel near the airport. Cameras, security, witnesses. He checked them in under a false name, paid cash, requested a room on the 3rd floor with a view of the parking lot. Emma helped Lily with her backpack, while Jake surveyed the room. One entry point. Window faced the lot. Fire exit at the end of the hall. Acceptable. Pizza. Lily asked hopefully. In a minute. Jake pulled out his phone, scrolled to a contact he hadn't used in 3 years. Marcus Chun answered on the 2nd ring. Mercer? That you? Yeah. I'm in Great Falls. Need a favor. 15 minutes later, Marcus arrived, still built like a linebacker, still moving with the controlled economy of someone who'd spent a decade in special operations. He listened while Jake explained, his expression growing darker. These guys are small time, Marcus said finally. Local crew, run protection rackets on the highway. Usually back off when confronted. Usually. Marcus pulled out his phone. But I know people. Let me make some calls. While Marcus worked his contacts, Jake ordered pizza. The girls ate in front of the TV, some animated movie providing normalcy they desperately needed. Emma kept glancing at her father, reading the tension he tried to hide. An hour later, Marcus returned. It's handled. Word's been passed. You're off limits. They touch you or your family. They answer to some people they really don't want to answer to. You're sure? Sure as I can be. But Mercer? Get your girls out of Montana. Tomorrow. Jake nodded. First thing. After Marcus left, Jake sat by the window, watching the parking lot. Emma appeared beside him, silent. We're safe now, she asked. Yes. Because of what you were. What you can still be. Jake looked at his daughter. 12 years old. Too smart. Too observant. Because I have friends who remember what I was. And who I protected. Will you have to be that person again? No, Jake said firmly. This is over. Emma studied him for a long moment, then hugged him tight. Good, because I like you better as just Dad. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Morning came with pale sunlight and the sound of Lily singing in the shower. Jake had barely slept, keeping watch by the window, but the parking lot remained quiet. No motorcycles. No threats. Just families loading luggage and business travelers checking out. His phone rang. His mother. Jacob, tell me the truth now. What happened? Jake stepped into the hallway, pulled the door closed. Some guys followed us from a gas station. Made threats. I handled it. Handled it how? Called in a favor. Old teammate lives here. He made it clear we're not worth their trouble. His mother's silence carried weight. And now we leave Montana. Head to Washington. Stay close to home for a while. The girls, they saw this? Heard the threats. Some of it. Yeah. Jacob. Her voice softened. They need stability. Not this. Not you being pulled back into. I know, Mom. I know. Jake pressed his forehead against the wall. This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm just trying to keep them safe. I understand. But son, maybe it's time to tell them the whole truth. About what you did. What you sacrificed. They're old enough to understand. Emma's 12. And she's Sarah's daughter. Sharp as a knife. She already knows something. Better it comes from you. Jake closed his eyes. His mother was right. She usually was. Inside the room, he found both girls awake, dressed, waiting. Emma looked at him expectantly. We need to talk, Jake said, sitting on the bed. About my time in the military. About what I really did. For the next 20 minutes, he told them. Not everything. Not the classified operations. Not the violence. Not the things that still woke him at night. But enough. The SEAL teams. The deployments. The responsibility of protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. The injury that sent him home. The promise he'd made to their mother that he'd leave it all behind. Lily listened with wide eyes. Emma nodded slowly, pieces clicking into place. So you're like a superhero, Lily said. But retired. Despite everything, Jake smiled. Something like that. And those men, They were scared of you because of what you could do. They were scared of the consequences, of what happens when you threaten someone who has friends who won't tolerate it. Emma reached over, took his hand. You protected us, like you always do. Always, Jake promised. They checked out an hour later. Marcus met them in the lobby, handed Jake an envelope. Contact information. People in Seattle who can help if this ever comes back around. But it won't. Message was delivered. You're clear. Jake shook his hand. I owe you. You don't owe me anything, brother. Just get those girls home safe. The drive back to Seattle took 2 days. They stopped at Jake's mother's house for one night. Pot roast and stories. Grandma spoiling the girls, while Jake's father pulled him aside. You did good, his father said quietly. Handled it without becoming what you left behind. Barely. But you did. That's what matters. Morning came with pale sunlight and the sound of Lily singing in the shower. Jake had barely slept, keeping watch by the window, but the parking lot remained quiet. No motorcycles. No threats. Just families loading luggage and business travelers checking out. His phone rang. His mother. Jacob, tell me the truth now. What happened? Jake stepped into the hallway, pulled the door closed. Some guys followed us from a gas station. Made threats. I handled it. Handled it how? Called in a favor. Old teammate lives here. He made it clear we're not worth their trouble. His mother's silence carried weight. And now we leave Montana. Head to Washington. Stay close to home for a while. The girls, they saw this? Heard the threats. Some of it. Yeah. Jacob. Her voice softened. They need stability. Not this. Not you being pulled back into. I know, Mom. I know. Jake pressed his forehead against the wall. This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm just trying to keep them safe. I understand. But son, maybe it's time to tell them the whole truth. About what you did. What you sacrificed. They're old enough to understand. Emma's 12. And she's Sarah's daughter. Sharp as a knife. She already knows something. Better it comes from you. Jake closed his eyes. His mother was right. She usually was. Inside the room, he found both girls awake, dressed, waiting. Emma looked at him expectantly. We need to talk, Jake said, sitting on the bed. About my time in the military. About what I really did. For the next 20 minutes, he told them. Not everything. Not the classified operations. Not the violence. Not the things that still woke him at night. But enough. The SEAL teams. The deployments. The responsibility of protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. The injury that sent him home. The promise he'd made to their mother that he'd leave it all behind. Lily listened with wide eyes. Emma nodded slowly, pieces clicking into place. So you're like a superhero, Lily said. But retired. Despite everything, Jake smiled. Something like that. And those men, they were scared of you because of what you could do. They were scared of the consequences. Of what happens when you threaten someone who has friends who won't tolerate it. Emma reached over, took his hand. You protected us. Like you always do. Always, Jake promised. They checked out an hour later. Marcus met them in the lobby, handed Jake an envelope. Contact information. People in Seattle who can help if this ever comes back around. But it won't. Message was delivered. You're clear. Jake shook his hand. I owe you. You don't owe me anything, brother. Just get those girls home safe. The drive back to Seattle took 2 days. They stopped at Jake's mother's house for one night. Pot roast and stories. Grandma spoiling the girls, while Jake's father pulled him aside. You did good, his father said quietly. Handled it without becoming what you left behind. Barely. But you did. That's what matters. 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the kitchen of their Seattle home, making pancakes while Emma did homework at the table. Lily colored nearby, humming the same song she'd been singing since Montana. The normalcy felt fragile but real. School runs, soccer practice, parent-teacher conferences. The rhythm of civilian life reasserting itself. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Jake's hand froze mid-flip. Emma looked up. Dad. He checked the message. Not a threat. A photo. The biker leader, standing in front of a police station, hands cuffed behind his back. Below it, a text from Marcus. Highway patrol caught them running drugs. Won't be bothering anyone for 10 to 15 years. Sleep easy. Jake exhaled slowly, deleted the message. Just Marcus. Checking in. The bad man, Lily asked without looking up from her drawing. In jail. Where they belong. Good. She went back to coloring, the threat already fading into childhood memory. But Emma watched him carefully. You okay? Yeah, I am. And surprisingly, he meant it. The fear that had gripped him on that highway, the terror of his past catching up, of violence touching his daughters, had loosened. Not gone entirely. It never would be. But manageable. That afternoon, Jake drove to the cemetery. He hadn't been since the anniversary of Sarah's passing, 6 months ago. Guilt twisted in his chest as he approached her headstone. Hey, he said quietly, kneeling. I'm sorry I haven't visited. Things got complicated. He told her about Montana, about the bikers, the threats, the moment when he'd almost become the person he'd promised her he'd leave behind, about Emma's sharp observations and Lily's innocent trust, about how he'd chosen to protect them without crossing the line he'd sworn never to cross again. The girls are good, he continued. Emma's so much like you. Smart, observant, doesn't let me get away with anything. Lily's tougher than she looks. They both are. He paused. I think you'd be proud of them. I hope you'd be proud of me, too. The wind rustled through the trees. Jake sat in silence, remembering her voice, her laugh, the way she'd looked at him when he came home broken and told him he could still be whole. I'm trying, he whispered, to be the father they need, the man you believed I could be. He stayed until the sun began to set, then drove home to find both girls waiting at the window. Lily pressed her face against the glass, waving frantically when she spotted him. Inside, Emma had set the table. We made dinner. Well, Grandma helped on the phone, but we did most of it. Most of it, Lily confirmed proudly. They ate together, slightly burned chicken, overcooked vegetables, perfect in their imperfection. Jake watched his daughters talk over each other, arguing about whose turn it was to pick the movie, and felt something settle in his chest. This was what mattered, not the past, not the skills he'd once possessed. Just this. 2 girls who trusted him, needed him, loved him despite everything he'd been. After dinner, while the girls watched their movie, Jake's phone rang. His mother. How are they? She asked. Good. Really good. And you? Jake glanced at the living room, where Lily had fallen asleep on Emma's shoulder, both of them illuminated by the TV's glow. Better, he said. Getting better. 6 months passed like water finding its level, slowly, inevitably, settling into new patterns. Jake took a job teaching self-defense at the community center, not because he needed to relive his past, but because he could transform it into something useful. Teaching teenagers how to protect themselves, how to de-escalate, how to walk away when possible and stand firm when necessary. Emma joined the class. 12 turning 13, she moved through the techniques with her mother's grace and her father's precision. Watching her practice, Jake saw Sarah in every gesture, every determined expression. Lily started soccer. Jake coached, running drills on Saturday mornings, cheering from the sidelines, living the peaceful suburban life he'd once thought impossible. One evening, Emma found him looking at old photos, his team, years ago, faces younger and more certain than they had any right to be. Do you miss it? She asked, sitting beside him. Sometimes. The brotherhood, the clarity of knowing exactly what you were supposed to do. But I wouldn't trade this. You, Lily, are life. Not for anything. Emma leaned against his shoulder. The men in Montana. If they'd hurt us, you would have stopped them. Not a question. Jake nodded. But you didn't have to. Because you found another way. I got lucky. Had the right friends. No. Emma looked up at him. You made the right choices. That's different than luck. Later, after both girls were asleep, Jake stood in their doorway watching them breathe. Lily sprawled across her bed, one arm hanging off the edge. Emma curled around a pillow, phone charging on the nightstand, already too grown up and still so young. He thought about that gas station, The moment when violence had seemed inevitable. The choice he'd made to protect them without becoming the person he'd left behind. How close he'd come to crossing that line. But he hadn't. And that mattered. His phone buzzed. "Marcus, how's civilian life treating you?" Jake typed back, "Better every day." "Good man. The offer stands if you ever want to consult. Security work, nothing heavy. Appreciate it. But I'm exactly where I need to be." "Lucky girls." "Lucky me," Jake replied. He set the phone down, pulled both bedroom doors half closed the way the girls liked them, and walked to his own room. On the dresser sat a photo of Sarah holding newborn Emma, her smile radiant and eternal. "We're okay," Jake whispered. "All of us." Finally. Tomorrow there would be school runs and soccer practice and homework battles. There would be Emma's knowing looks and Lily's endless questions. There would be the ordinary challenges of raising two girls alone in a world that didn't always make sense. But tonight, in this moment, they were safe. They were loved. They were home. And for a man who'd spent years protecting strangers in distant places, protecting his own daughters in the quiet suburbs of Seattle felt like the most important mission he'd ever undertaken. The one that finally mattered most.